Listen to me with the seriousness of a thunderclap. There are angels warring for you right now, not yesterday, not someday, now. While you sit here wondering whether your life still matters, whether your heart is too bruised to risk hope again, there is a sound moving through the unseen, like the tearing of old curtains, and it is the sound of chains being broken in your name. I am not speaking to the casual listener or the curious passerby. I am speaking to the one who has carried a private ache, like a hidden scar underneath polite smiles and polite conversations. You know who you are. You have been singled out, apart, chosen, not because you were flawless, but because even in your flaws, you kept protecting a small, stubborn flame of goodness. That flame has been noticed. Heaven has put its mark on you. I know what they said about you. I know how the whispers traveled faster than truth, how rooms went quiet when you entered, how your hopes were measured at arm's length by people who loved the idea of you, but struggled with the real, complicated person you are. I know the nights when the bed felt too big and the silence felt like a verdict. The betrayals that slid in close, dressed as friendship. The opportunities that evaporated just as your fingers reached for them, as if some cosmic prankster kept moving the finish line. If you have felt hunted by disappointment, if you have watched doors close and thought, maybe I am the door that's broken, then hear me. You are not the problem. You are the treasure, and treasures attract thieves. There is a pattern in your pain, and patterns are evidence. The curve of your story has always revealed how uncommon you are. Other people can live in half-truths without pressure, but you get confronted for even small compromises. Others can hide and survive. You try to hide, and life itself drags you into the light. This is not punishment. This is preservation. When you are chosen, heaven refuses to let you shrink into a version of yourself that keeps everyone comfortable but kills your destiny by degrees. The friction you felt was not hostility alone. It was the heat required to refine a life that was always meant to burn brighter than ordinary. Think back to the first time you knew you were different. Maybe it was the way you sensed things in rooms before anyone spoke. Maybe it was how you loved, too deeply and too loyally, and it scared people who were used to shallow waters. Maybe you endured losses that would have collapsed someone else, yet somehow you stayed standing. Crooked, yes, but standing. That endurance is not an accident. Angels have been stationed around you since the day your purpose took its first breath. They stood with you when you did not even know they were there, nudging you away from accidents, softening the edges of consequences, tugging your sleeve when the wrong hands tried to claim you. You call it intuition, or luck, or timing. Heaven calls it protection. You have had dreams that felt like warnings, and dreams that felt like maps. You have met people for a season who taught you something you needed for a lifetime, even if they were not meant to stay. You have felt sudden clarity arrive in the middle of confusion, like a fresh wind in a stale room. That clarity did not come from nowhere. It came from the God who has been tracking every sigh. Your tears have receipts. Your prayers have a paper trail. Every time you whispered, "Help me," even when you did not know how to aim that whisper, it landed. You were heard. I need you to consider a different meaning for the resistance you've been meeting. When nations protect their gold, they build vaults and post guards. When heaven protects a chosen one, it allows certain storms to prove what cannot be uprooted. Your storms have been X-rays, not executions. They revealed what was fractured and what was unbreakable. You have learned which relationships could survive honesty, which dreams could survive delay, which parts of you were costumes, and which parts were character. That is not failure, that is refinement. Metal takes a shape, but steel takes a purpose. You have not merely been shaped, you have been purposed. There is a moment in every sacred story when the hero is misread as the problem they were sent to solve. Joseph's brothers called him arrogant. He was carrying a future that made their present feel small. David was sized up by armor that didn't fit. He was meant to carry a sling, not a sword someone else respected. Esther was called pretty. She was actually a strategy. You have felt diminished by labels that failed to include your true weight. Do not let those labels stick. Heaven is removing name tags you never chose. And now, because you have stayed when it would have been easier to disappear, because you have kept your heart from becoming a weapon in self-defense, there is movement around you. Listen, really listen to the subtle shift in your spirit. The dread that used to wake up before you did has lost its head start. The voice that said, "It will always be this way," sounds tired, almost bored with its own script. This is not your imagination. This is the soft advance of help. I can almost see the dust rise on the road of your life as reinforcements arrive. Not because you begged perfectly, but because love does not need perfect sentences to respond. It only needs a sincere signal. You have been sending that signal for years. What happens next will confuse people who thought they read your ending, who invested in your collapse because it made them feel taller. Let them be confused. Your job is not to manage their surprise. Your job is to make room. Make room in your language for gentleness with yourself. Make room in your schedule for opportunities that are arriving without your old hustle. Make room in your imagination for a version of your life that is not negotiated down by fear. If that feels dangerous, remember this. You have already survived the dangers of living small. Now you will learn the discipline of living true. I want you to picture this with me as vividly as you can. Your life is a house at the edge of a forest. For a long time, the path to your door was overgrown, muddy, blocked by fallen branches you didn't put there. You kept sweeping, clearing, praying, and the next storm would clutter it again. Tonight, there is a sound in the trees. It is not another storm. It is a procession. Lanterns you did not light are bobbing down the path. Strong hands are lifting the branches. The mud is being packed into steady ground. The angels are not bringing you a new life. They are restoring access to the life that was always yours. This is why the ache in your chest has felt different lately, less like grief and more like stretching. Your heart is making space. I am not promising you a world without difficulty. I am telling you the scale has tipped. The things that used to unravel you will still attempt their old tricks, but they will find less fabric to catch. You are being rewoven with stronger thread. Your discernment is sharpening. Your peace is no longer a mood, it is a strategy. The battle for you has intensified because the victory concerning you is near. When angels fight, they do not swing blindly. They move with intelligence. They will close doors you were about to force open. They will open windows you forgot were there. They will rearrange your circle, not to punish, but to protect the tenderness that makes you who you are. You are not losing people. You are losing permission for certain energies to speak into your becoming. I want you to breathe slowly, like someone who knows rescue has already left the station. Put your hand on your chest if you can and feel the proof that you are still here. That heartbeat is not random. It is a drum the armies of heaven can hear from miles away. Every thud says, "We are alive, we are ready, we will not die in the hallway." And because you are chosen, you will never again mistake waiting for abandonment. Waiting is preparation in disguise. You will not be mocked by time. You will be mentored by it. The delay you hated taught you the routes your enemies don't know and the shortcuts your friends could not teach you. You hate the detours until the day they become your map. So let me speak plainly and prophetically over you. The worst is aware that it has missed its chance. The dark is aware that your eyes are adjusting. The plot against your joy is aware that its author has been fired. You are not broken beyond usefulness. You are broken open for fullness. You are not too late. You are right on divine time. You are not alone. There are angels warring for you right now. Keep your posture soft and your spine unbent. Refuse to apologize for healing. Refuse to dim yourself to keep someone else's dysfunction comfortable. And if your hands are trembling as you hear this, Let them tremble like leaves, announcing wind. Help is already on the path. You have survived a curriculum most people never graduate from, and I want to name it so your spirit can finally receive course credit. There were seasons when your mind felt like a city under siege, sirens blaring at odd hours, thoughts sprinting through alleys they had no business entering. You kept showing up to ordinary life while invisible fires crackled behind your ribs. Some mornings you put on your shoes as if they were armor and walked into rooms that smelled like old warfare, where smiles hid daggers and polite words were booby-trapped with envy. You learned to sense weather changes in people long before clouds formed on their faces. That wasn't paranoia, that was training. Every betrayal that tried to rot your roots became compost for discernment. You stopped mistaking volume for truth, confidence for character, access for intimacy. You didn't grow cynical. You grew surgical. When a person carries a calling, resistance rises like a counterfeit tide to test the shoreline. The nights you could not sleep were not random. They were watchman hours. Something in you stood guard while your tired body rested, and though you tossed on the surface, your deeper self was wide-eyed and praying without words. In the realm you cannot see, angels were staffing a perimeter. They fielded accusations hurled against you like stones, and you were puzzled to wake up sore without visible bruises. You felt the afterburn of battles. You did not remember fighting, but your spirit remembers. It remembers being preserved at the last second from agreements you were about to make out of loneliness. It remembers being escorted out of a conversation that was smiling and yet strangely suffocating. It remembers being guided to the right sentence in a book, to the right song lyric at a red light, to the right stranger's kindness at the precise moment your hope was losing blood. None of this was luck. God was documenting everything. You told the truth and paid for it in currency that only the honest know. You apologized when it would have been easier to retaliate. You forgave in installments because the debt was heavy and your arms were tired, yet you still chose release over revenge. You practiced joy on days it felt like a foreign language. You blessed people who misunderstood your blessing as weakness and took more than they gave. And even then you refused to let their math become your theology. That is strength, not the chest-thumping kind, but the quiet granite kind that keeps a covenant with goodness when nobody is clapping. Heaven calls that kind of strength royal. It looks unimpressive to the insecure because it does not need to be seen to be real. But in the courts of the unseen, it is recorded like a lineage. Let me tell you something about the way God sees. We imagine a distant gaze, but the truth is more intimate and more just. God's seeing is measuring, sifting motive from spectacle, weighing what no camera can capture. The conversation you ended early to protect your peace, seen. The message you didn't send because it would have satisfied your anger but violated your character, seen. The money you sowed when your own wallet was thin because you refused to let scarcity dictate your generosity, seen. The silence you chose when a clapback would have been viral, seen. The hour you sat in your car and cried where nobody could hear you because you needed to leak grief without contaminating the room you were about to enter, seen. There is no small obedience in a life set apart. Every small yes becomes a brick in a bridge you will soon walk across. If you are honest, you did not merely endure enemies, you survived friendly fire. That kind of wound stings with a special salt. You assumed shared language meant shared loyalty, only to learn that loyalty is proven when opportunities divide people into who they are and who they perform as. Some folks loved you as long as you stayed small enough to fit inside their comfort. When your healing lifted you above the ceiling they had quietly fixed over your head, they called your growth a threat. Your new boundaries sounded like ingratitude to ears addicted to your old compliance. But hear me, it is not your job to tutor adults into treating you with basic honor. Your boundaries are not punishments. They are seatbelts for the precious cargo you carry. Wearing one does not declare a crash. it declares wisdom. Even now, while you're listening, I can sense a shift in the ecosystem around your life. The ones who tried to narrate you into irrelevance are noticing the plot is moving without their permission. Their forecasts are failing. They rehearsed your downfall so many times, they mistook the rehearsal for the show. But the stage manager of heaven is rearranging the set. The spotlight they tried to keep from you is swinging on its hinge, and you are not stepping into it as a thirsty performer. You are walking into it as a witness. You will testify to preservation, not performance. And because your rise was incubated in hiddenness, it will not be flimsy. The applause of people will be a nice sound in the room, but it won't be your oxygen. You learn to breathe in the dark. Light will only make that breath steadier. Think about the metaphors your life has been speaking. You were thrown into pits of misunderstanding like Joseph, yet dreams kept visiting you, bright enough to paint your night. You faced Goliaths, oversized problems that shouted insults about your future, and all you had was a sling of memory and a few smooth stones of practice. You reached back, not into bravado, but into history. The bear you killed in secret, the lion you overcame when nobody was filming. Those private victories were not wasted. They trained your muscles to gather momentum in small spaces. And when you released what was in your hand, it found the tender place in the giant's forehead, because angels whisper aim to those who have been faithful with little. There were also red seas in your path, wide and mocking, whispering, turn back. You had nothing but a staff of obedience and a trembling voice, but the waters have memories. They remember the one who told them where to stop on the first day. When you lifted what you had and moved your feet, the waters peeled back with reluctant respect. You crossed on floors that had never known the pressure of human footsteps, and behind you, the sea closed over your pursuers. They didn't drown because you are vengeful. They drowned because they were committed to a version of you God had already buried. You were not rescued so you could argue with ghosts. You were rescued so you could turn deserts into gardens. If your hands still shake, let them. Trembling is not weakness. It is evidence your nervous system is recalibrating to brighter truth. Your spine is remembering its original height. Your voice is shedding the rust of long silences. Your intuition, the quiet counselor that always told you when something was off, has been vindicated. You were not crazy. You were early. Prophets are always accused of exaggeration by those who prefer the dull comfort of delay. But look around. Even your adversaries are quieter. They have begun to sense that the ground under your feet is no longer theirs to tamper with. Heaven has placed do not disturb tape around your harvest. The schemes that once found easy traction now spin out like tires on wet glass. This is not because you learned better tricks. It is because rank has entered the room on your behalf. And yes, some are trembling, not because you are violent, but because you are clear. Clarity is terrifying to manipulation. It starves it. You have outgrown the need to explain your every no, to justify your every yes, to make your peace digestible to those allergic to responsibility. You will not argue with rumors, because rumor cannot afford the price of truth. You will not chase people who keep misplacing you, because you have errands assigned by heaven and they come with a clock. Your enemies are learning that the safest version of you was the silenced version, and that person is gone. What rises in you now is not a stranger. It is the unedited self God always had in mind, stepping forward with the authority of survival, the tenderness of someone who still believes in love, and the focus of a soul that has finally found its coordinates. So take this in like medicine. You have already proven your spiritual strength by refusing to become what tried to break you. You did not rot in the waiting room. You built a sanctuary there. You did not weaponize your wisdom. You turned it into shelter. You did not idolize your pain. You harvested it for lessons. God saw all of it, measured all of it, honored all of it. And because heaven is just, the ledger in the unseen has reached a threshold. The pages are turning. You can feel the air pressure change, can't you? That's what it feels like when the wind shifts to fill your sails after years of rowing. Hold the oars loosely now. The river knows where to go. Let me say this as plainly as sunlight on water. The season of quiet accounting is ending, and the season of public justice is beginning. God is not merely fixing things privately in the corners where only your tears kept record. He is writing in letters large enough that even the casual passerby will read the correction. What was done to you in whispers will be answered in a voice that carries, not to humiliate for spectacle, but to heal the timeline and to demonstrate that heaven is not indifferent to the ways power gets misused on the earth. You are not waiting for luck. You are standing in a courtroom whose verdict is already drafted. The judge is not swayed by noise, favors, or the clever edits of those who prefer a curated truth. The gavel is lifted. Watch what happens when it falls. You have long felt the ache of asymmetry, how effort and outcome didn't match, how kindness was met with taking, how excellence was borrowed without attribution. You learned to bless and release, and that posture saved your heart from bitterness, but it also made some think you were easy to rewrite. That illusion is over. The reversal you are entering is not merely about you receiving what you were denied. It is about the moral gravity of the world being reasserted around your life. Crooked lines are being straightened. False narratives are losing their glue. The rooms where you were sized down to fit someone's insecurity are about to feel too small for the truth of who you are, and you will walk out without apology. You won't slam the door. You will simply carry so much clarity that the hinges cannot hold. Listen to how justice moves when God is authoring it. It does not need your rage to gather speed. It does not need your campaigning to become legitimate. It honors your lament without making your identity out of loss. It arrives with the dignity of inevitability. That email you thought was ignored will resurface on the right desk. That skill you honed in secret will be named in public by a voice you did not solicit. That room where your absence was once celebrated will begin to feel the draft you always covered. Retribution is not the goal. Restoration is. And restoration carries a fragrance that outlasts arguments. It smells like peace becoming practical. In this turning, God will also reveal you to yourself, gently, accurately, powerfully. Some of the justice you will witness will be internal, relief flushing the last toxins of self-blame, strength returning to muscles that atrophied under chronic disparagement, joy taking up permanent residence where it once visited cautiously. It will look like you laughing without scanning the room for permission, like you receiving kindness without rehearsing a repayment plan, like you praying from gratitude instead of only from survival. Your nervous system will learn the language of safety. It will stop bracing for the next hit because the hits have stopped landing. You will still be wise, but you will not be jumpy. Wisdom after war looks like steadiness that does not need walls. Some will ask, how did your life turn like that? And your answer will be a simple story that refuses to glamorize the valley or over-center the mountain. You will talk about small obediences that stacked like stones into an altar, about days when you held a boundary with shaking hands and still slept clean, about prayers that looked unimpressive but opened doors no hustle could. Your testimony will be practical and supernatural at the same time because that is what truth feels like when heaven collaborates with earth. And yes, there will be those who downplay it, who offer alternate explanations to soothe their pride. You won't argue. Those who need proof will see it in the longevity of your peace. Fads spike. Justice settles. I want to place a balm in the deepest place of your remembering. You were not foolish for loving as much as you did. You were not naive for believing in people. You were practicing your original language, and nothing learned in love is wasted. Even what broke taught you how to carry fragile things more wisely. Even what drained you taught you the shape of healthy exchange. Even what mocked you taught you that dignity does not ask permission to exist. Keep your tenderness. It is not a liability. It is a passport. In the rooms you are entering, tenderness is the mark of those who have authority without addiction to power. You will lead like that, quietly effective, allergic to performative cruelty, allergic to the kind of scarcity that makes generosity look risky. Now I need you to agree with victory out loud. Life and death still travel on the rails of language, so speak like someone who knows which train you are boarding. Say, I receive restoration. Say, I welcome divine justice. Say, I am not late, I am aligned. Say, I forgive and release what cannot come with me. Your mouth is a gate. Open it to welcome what angels are carrying. When you do, watch how swiftly confirmations begin to stack. The call that surprises your calendar, the provision that matches an unspoken need, the reconciliation that requires both clarity and boundaries. And you'll have both. God is not sending you into this turn with empty hands. He is placing tools that fit yours exactly, anointing that matches your assignment, and companions who prefer building to gossip. You will recognize them by the way your soul unshrinks in their company. If your heart still tries to bargain, what if it happens again? What if the tide turns back? What if I'm celebrating too soon? Answer it kindly. We are done using fear as a forecast. You can be sober without being suspicious. You can remember without reliving. You can honor the lessons without rehearsing the pain. The new chapter is not allergic to your history. It is built from it. The very qualities that got you wounded, your honesty, your depth, your refusal to pretend, will be the same qualities that seat you at tables where pretense has finally gone out of style. There is a market now for the authentic because the counterfeit exhausted itself. Your time feels right because it is. So proclaim this with me. Victory is not pending, it is present. It is threading itself through appointments you already have, through work you already do, through relationships that are already in your life. It does not only look like big headlines, it looks like sleeping well. It looks like conversations that don't require translation because respect is the native tongue. It looks like bills paid without panic, like plans that don't require you to bleed for them to breathe, like creativity that returns as a friend, not as a taskmaster. It looks like a house with lights on and doors that lock easily at night. You will dwell in that kind of victory, not visit it. And because this is bigger than one person's relief, I am asking you to do something bold and simple. Agree publicly with the goodness that is arriving. If this word sits right in your spirit, say so. Write, I receive it, where it can be seen. Share this message with someone who needs a ladder out of their own pit. Subscribe to the steady practice of hope the way you used to subscribe to anxiety. Anchor your mornings with a sentence that points your day toward wholeness. And if you can, leave a trace of gratitude wherever you go. Notes, texts, quiet generosity, because gratitude is the currency of this new economy you are entering. It multiplies what it touches. I am not asking you to pretend that you don't still have questions. I am inviting you to carry your questions differently, like lanterns instead of weights. Justice is here, reversal is here, healing is here. You do not have to brace for impact, you can brace for blessing. The angels who fought for you in shadows are now escorting you into rooms where your light will not be punished for being light. Lift your head, breathe like someone who belongs. Take the next step like someone whose path is being confirmed with every footfall. And if your hands are free, lift them for a moment, not in performance, but in permission. Let heaven complete what it started. Let victory sit down in your life and stay. Let's turn the lantern toward the mechanics of what you've lived, because naming the engines under the hood helps you drive the road you're on with less fear. The first truth is almost insulting in its simplicity. What is precious draws pressure. Not because the universe is cruel, but because valuable things alter environments, and environments resist alteration. Your growth didn't just make you happier, it changed the air pressure in your circle. Systems, families, workplaces, friend groups love homeostasis. When one member heals, the system has to choose between upgrading or pulling the healer back to baseline. You felt that tug. The improved you became a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable for those invested in myths. Their discomfort had a volume. It sounded like critique, distance, or overfamiliar jokes that minimized your progress. That was not random meanness. It was the system negotiating with itself to keep equilibrium. When heaven chooses someone, that someone becomes a pressure point for transformation, and pressure always looks like opposition before it looks like alignment. There's another paradox that can make you doubt yourself if you don't recognize it. The more authentic you became, the more accusations of inauthenticity you attracted from people who only knew the costume. They were not seeing you, they were grieving their control. In psychology, we call it projection. In scripture, we call it false witness. In the body, we feel it as a dizziness that says, "Am I the one who's confused?" You weren't. You were early. When your identity pivots from appeasement to assignment, those who benefited from your appeasement experience your boundary as betrayal. They rename your clarity as coldness, your no as rebellion, your peace as pride. It helps to understand that such reactions are more about their fear of loss than about any truth in you. Loss of access, loss of advantage, loss of the old narrative in which they were hero and you were helper. Remember this when the temperature drops in rooms you once warmed. You are not colder, you are clearer, and clarity doesn't require performing warmth to deserve welcome. Envy, too, deserves honest language, not to demonize people, but to diffuse the gaslighting around it. There's benign envy, the kind that says, "You inspire me, teach me how you did that." Then there's malicious envy, the kind that says, "If I cannot be what you are, I'll make sure nobody believes you are it." Malicious envy wears clever disguises. Backhanded compliments, concerns disguised as care, triangulation that recruits others into subtle sabotage. Its favorite tool is plausible deniability. That's why your spirit felt bruised in rooms where no single sentence was provably cruel, yet the cumulative tone left you smaller. You were not imagining it. Your nervous system registered the math of the room before your mind could articulate the equation. The good news is that your spirit's early warning system has matured. The alarms are calibrated now. You won't be guilted into staying on battlefields where the only victory is proving you can be hurt and still be present. The attacks you faced were not only external, there were internal saboteurs trained by old weather, voices inherited from tired narratives, loyalties to suffering that disguised themselves as humility, reflexes that apologized for taking up rightful space. Those parts of you were not evil, they were protective. Once upon a time, they kept you safe by shrinking you. But angels don't just fight around you, they coach within you. Lately, you've noticed a kinder specialization in your self-talk. Instead of shaming your fear, you've started to shepherd it. Instead of obeying your anxiety, you've begun to interrogate it. What are you trying to protect? Is there a better strategy? That is deliverance in slow motion. You are not abandoning younger versions of yourself. You are adopting them and giving them upgraded jobs. The part of you that used to scan rooms for danger can now scan contracts for flaws. The part that managed other people's moods can now manage projects with excellence. Nothing is wasted when it's reassigned. Consider also the law of exposure before promotion. Fruitful trees are shaken, not to humiliate the tree, but to reveal what is ripe and what is rotten. As your influence grew, a shaking arrived. Shaking reveals attachments, habits that can't travel, alliances that were transactional, beliefs that hid under pious language but ran on fear. It also reveals integrity. Whatever doesn't fly off in the shaking is part of the tree. That's why the last few conflicts felt less like arguments and more like audits. Heaven was auditing your foundations, not to fail you, but to certify you. Certified peace is different from peace that depends on silence. Certified love is different from love that requires you to disappear. Certified purpose doesn't vibrate when someone misunderstands you. You will still care, but you will not collapse. There's a spiritual physics at work in calling. Light attracts bugs and travelers. When your lamp brightened, both arrived. Those drawn to your warmth for warmth's sake, and those whose undealt shadows wanted to use your light as camouflage. This is why you needed discernment to pair with compassion. Compassion without discernment hires thieves. Discernment without compassion builds prisons. Your assignment demands both. Open doors with wise locks. Angels help with locks. They are not only fighters, they are logisticians. You've begun to see it in your calendar, the chance delays that saved you from entanglements, the overlap of key introductions, the rhythm that places rest before critical decisions, the text that arrives minutes before you were about to agree to something that would tax your soul. Logistics are mercy wearing a wristwatch. Group dynamics deserve a word, too. Many of the strangest storms you weathered had less to do with individual malice and more to do with the herd mind. Insecure groups need scapegoats. The scapegoat absorbs the group's unowned anxiety so the group can avoid change. You were tagged because you carried enough resilience to survive the projection and enough clarity to threaten the status quo. But scapegoating only works as long as the scapegoat agrees to carry the stories. You stopped agreeing. You returned what wasn't yours with quiet hands. The group will have to metabolize its own lessons now or repeat them without you. Either way, you will not be the chalkboard for other people's unlearned math. Now let's talk about the anger you've felt at times about why me. The honest answer is both soft and exacting, because your soul signed up for impact, and impact requires edges that don't cut people but can cut through noise. Edges are forged in friction. Your compassion needed a backbone so it wouldn't become codependence. Your truth needed a melody so it wouldn't become a weapon. Your courage needed tenderness so it wouldn't become tyranny. Adversity trained these balances. You are not merely nicer or tougher, you are truer, and truth has a posture. It stands without shoving. It invites without begging. It bows to God without bending to manipulation. Another paradox, the more you healed, the more some old bonds ached. That ache is not proof you're wrong. It's proof your capacities have changed. Healing increases sensitivity, not fragility. You feel misalignment sooner because your inner joints are back in place. What used to take you months to admit now takes you minutes. That speed is mercy. It preserves energy for building. Your mission, the unique way your life bears God's goodness into the world, needs that energy. Maybe your mission looks like words, or care, or design, or justice, or stewardship of resources, or raising children who won't have to heal from what you had to survive. Whatever its shape, mission is why your nights were contested. Darkness does not waste artillery on empty fields. The fire directed at you was a confession from hell about the threat of your obedience. It will help you to name your assignment, not as a job title, but as a pattern of fruit. Notice what consistently happens when you are free to be you. People breathe deeper. Confusion turns into order. Shame loosens. Creativity wakes up. Courage becomes contagious. That's your anointing's fingerprint. Angels are commissioned to protect that fruit, not your image. This is why some image-protecting opportunities fell through. They would have starved the fruit. This is why some low-status doors flew open. They fed the fruit. When you evaluate choices through fruit instead of fame, you will find the path easier to recognize. Fame is loud and impatient. Fruit is quiet and convincing. And what of those who hurt you? The most honest analysis recognizes both accountability and humanity. Some acted from malice, some acted from fear, some from immaturity, some from their own unhealed wounds. Holding them responsible and releasing them to God are not opposites. Accountability without hatred is possible when justice is no longer a revenge fantasy, but a rebalancing of reality. You don't need to curate their consequences. Life is very competent at teaching. Your future is very busy at arriving. Your heart is very ready to love again, but with eyes open, with boundaries that breathe, with a pace that honors your nervous system and your appointments with grace. So here is the map folded into a sentence you can keep. The attacks came because your presence alters atmospheres. Your healing disrupts homeostasis. Your clarity exposes manipulation. Your compassion attracts both need and leech, and your mission threatens the scarcity that keeps people small. You are not cursed. You are catalytic. You are not unlucky. You are luminous. You are not difficult. You are defined. The forest path to your house is clearing not just for your comfort, but for your calling, because what flows from your door will irrigate more land than you've seen yet. Keep your lamp trimmed, keep your ear tuned, keep your pace sacred. The same angels who fought for you in the thicket are walking beside you on the open road, and the sound you hear in your spirit, the steady drum that refuses to rush, is the cadence of someone who finally knows where they're going. Look at you now, clear-eyed, steadied, quieter on the inside than you've been in years. You do not need a parade to confirm what heaven has already sealed. You are the chosen one, marked not by perfection but by persistence, purified not by applause but by alignment. The signature of that choosing is all over you. It shows up in how your words land like clean water instead of sharp glass, in how your presence lowers the room's fever without demanding credit, in how you can hold joy and sobriety in the same pair of hands without dropping either. You don't have to prove this identity, you only have to wear it. It fits now. The shoulders have been tailored by storms, the hem has been stitched with patience, the fabric breathes because your soul does. From here, goodness will begin to gather around you with a kind of unhurried accuracy. Solutions will arrive dressed as simple next steps. Provision will choose sensible doors. Projects will stop requiring blood to keep them alive. You will notice how the right people recognize you by your fruit instead of your resume. How conversations feel like building instead of bargaining. How no becomes easy where yes was once expensive. You will still have days that ache, but ache will no longer narrate. It will pass through you like weather across a strong house. Wind at the windows, rain on the roof, warmth waiting in every room. Peace will be practical. Sleep will be faithful. Creativity will come back like an old friend who remembered your address. Watch the subtle choreography that begins to unfold. The timing of departures and arrivals will make sense in hindsight, but you'll feel the rightness of them in real time. The phone call that comes when you've just put down the fear that would have said yes too quickly. The email that lands after you chose rest over frantic reaching. The idea that visits while you're washing dishes, the kind that answers 3 problems at once without straining. This is not luck. It's alignment. When you stop negotiating with your calling, creation itself cooperates. You'll see it in the way paths appear where thickets once bristled, in how your feet remember the rhythm of ease without mistaking it for laziness, in how doors open that no flattery could have picked and no rumor can shut. There will also be reconciliations, but they will not all look like reunions. Some will be reconciliations with time, your heart making peace with the years that felt wasted, and then discovering that nothing was lost, only layered. Some will be reconciliations with yourself, those younger rooms in you finally exhaling because you chose protection without punishment, discipline without shame, tenderness without naivete. And yes, some will be reconciliations with others, clear words in calm rooms, forgiveness that doesn't forfeit wisdom, embraces that do not erase boundaries but honor them. You won't shove these moments into being. You'll recognize them when they arrive because peace will not need a sales pitch. As your life steadies, your generosity will widen. You won't perform rescue because rescue without readiness is control in a costume, but you will build structures where others can recover their breath. You will mentor without making clones. You will give without remaking anyone in your image. You will create spaces where truth can speak in a full voice and where wonder is allowed to be loud again. This is the quiet revolution you were always meant to midwife, not headlines and hysteria, but households and habits that make goodness easier to do than to avoid. Do not underestimate the scale of such work. Foundations outlast fireworks. I want you to hear this blessing like a soft command from someone who knows you deeply. Keep choosing the slow yes. Quick yeses look exciting, slow yeses move mountains. Keep choosing the honest no. Honest no's cost you crowds, they buy you destiny. Keep choosing the table where your soul unshrinks. Keep choosing mornings that begin with gratitude before strategy, with presence before performance. Keep choosing to be interruptible by kindness. Keep choosing to be unbribed by panic. The world will keep trying to sell you speed as salvation. Smile at the salesman, then close the door gently and return to the pace of grace. You have nothing to outrun anymore. You have a garden to tend. If there is still a fear that flares when you picture a larger life, the extra eyes, the louder opinions, offer that fear a job it can do well. Let it guard your margins. Let it remind you to step outside, to touch a tree, to drink water, to laugh with someone who is not impressed by your resume. Let it pull you back to the small rituals that keep your insides bright, the chair by the window, the walk without the phone, the song that always returns you to yourself. Angels love those rituals. They find you easily when you keep them. Now lift your chin and consent to the blessing that has already decided to love you. Speak with me, not as magic, but as agreement with what heaven is unfolding. I am aligned with divine order. I move at the pace of peace. I receive what is mine without stealing from myself. I steward what I receive without fear. I forgive and release what cannot remain. I bless what has been and welcome what is becoming. Let these sentences live on your tongue until they move into your bones. Language is a carpenter. It will build you a room to live in. And if this word has met you where you needed it, mark the meeting. Say it out loud to someone trustworthy. Write it where your future self will find it on a day when memory is thin. Leave a sentence of agreement in a place that witnesses can see, not to perform belief, but to practice belonging. Share this message with someone whose hands are tired. Lend them your rhythm until theirs returns. Subscribe to hope like you subscribe to oxygen. Choose to return here when noise gets loud and sit in the quiet until your name sounds like your own again. Before we part, receive a final reassurance that hums deeper than certainty. You are not late and you are not alone. Timing has always been a servant in your story, not a tyrant. Help is not on the way, it is here. Favor is not a rumor, it is residency. The same God who escorted you through nights that had no clocks will walk beside you under noonday brilliance and teach you how not to squint at goodness. The angels who fought for you in thorn and thistle will now stand at the edges of your fields, while they ripen not as bouncers, but as guardians of joy. Breathe at the cadence of someone who is kept. Walk like a person who owns keys. Rest like a garden after rain. Go on, beloved. Do your work like worship and your resting like trust. Keep your hands generous and your heart unbittered, your boundaries honest and your laughter easy. And when you think of this conversation later, let it be a warm light on your path, a reminder that you are chosen, covered, guided, and sent. Until we speak again, may peace be the sound your life makes.